Welcome back everybody to the TI4 Qualifiers presented by Monster Energy. I'm God, joining me is Giannis, Fogged, Merlini, AC. How are we doing, gentlemen?
Doing well, man. Doing well. The qualifiers seem pretty tight in the middle of the pack, and we've actually got a pack of really important matches. This one's actually, like, when you start to look at what teams are left to play each other, this is actually really important for both teams.
Yeah. Fogged, how you going, man?
I mean, I completely agree. Like, we're probably gonna end up seeing a pretty big tiebreaker. This game's gonna impact a lot. Both teams, like, this should probably actually be one of the better games that we've been able to see. I mean, CIS have been playing really, really well, and DT, although they had a couple rough games today, I think that they're going to be able to pull through, and they're going to probably end up winning this game.
We can take a look at our standings quickly before we hop ourselves into the draft. No, okay, just kidding, we can't. I get
We lied.
I get that big 2 X's, it means no. So, what are your thoughts coming up to this match? Who do you favor? Who do you think's kind of impressed you more?
I'm favoring DT. I mean, I think they had a little bit of, like I was saying, a little bit of a rough road earlier, but I still see them as a favorite. And their drafting overall, I think, has just been way stronger than CIS.
Okay. Ben, do you agree, disagree? What do you think?
I would agree, but mostly because CIS looks weak. The one game we casted them yesterday, they played LGD CDEC, and they got crushed.
Okay.
It was really bad, and they had a pretty failed draft.
Yeah, it's CIS, like you said, they've kind of been up and down. When they look good, they look really, really good, and they can certainly extend a game. You know, Black and his farming capabilities through the roof. DT, I think, is by far the favorite, but when you look at what this match is actually going to end up meaning to everyone, CIS only has 2 matches left. This one plus CMB. CMB should be, one would imagine.
CMB haven't got a win yet.
Exactly. So you're thinking sure win there. If CIS can actually get a win here, they're going to put themselves in a position to be outside of the tiebreakers. Like, they have a chance to open themselves up to that. Everyone else's path is a little bit more complicated.
Yeah.
But for Dreamtime, it's kind of the same story. Like, Dreamtime, a win here basically says guaranteed top 2. Don't worry about it. Tiebreakers are irrelevant. If they lose, who knows what happens with their last remaining matches.
Yeah. We're looking like we're heading towards that LGD DT Club top 2. But DT Club still have to win out. Their final match is against LGD themselves. So that's where DT Club are in a position where they can finish top 2, but they could also finish 4th, tied for the tiebreakers.
Odds are 44-56 in favor of DT. So predictions for winner.
DT.
DT.
Yeah, I agree. I think DT, but I think CIS have a lot of upset potential, but they're definitely underdogs.
Yeah, I'll go DT. I think it's a long game, though. I think CIS is going to play this very, very tight, and they're going to play to their strengths in terms of just going in the late game. They're super comfortable with that. Black loves to do that. Unless DT just crushes them and runs them over, this is going to be a 40, 50-minute game at least, bare minimum.
I absolutely agree.
Who are your res on, Ben?
I didn't bet on this one. No. I haven't actually casted DT yet, but I would say DT.
All right.
Just because CIS looked atrocious. I want to see a Black Pudge, though.
Black Pudge is hopefully in the cards. Well,
Pudge Omni Knight, man. It's so good. I've seen him do it before.
Speaking of picks, bans, and all that, we are in the draft, guys, so we're going to hand it over to Merlini as well as AC for our game between CIS and DT Club.
Welcome in once again, everyone. The North American Hub coverage brought to you by, or presented by Monster Energy, rather, Dreamtime and CIS. And we were talking about it just a second ago. This is a very important match for both. I mean, obviously, in any kind of a round-robin qualifier, every match has some significance. But for both of these teams, this is, I won't say make or break for either one, but Dreamtime certainly wants to secure themselves a top position, and they can do so with a win here. Their last match will be against LGD. CIS, at the same time, if they can pull an upset here, their last remaining match should be a sure win, and they could actually move themselves out of tie-break range as well. So both of these teams really looking for this win in order to solidify their position in the overall qualifier.
This is an aggressive opener from Dreamtime. Darkseer Night Stalker. I don't see Night Stalker very often, and usually when you do, it's like 3rd or 4th pick, especially versus like a hero mid that's very susceptible to silence. But I mean, CIS can just go like a tanky mid route like Dragon Knight, and it's I don't know. I think Night Stalker is best used as a surprise pick. You don't want to show your hand too early, but maybe Dreamtime they have something else in mind. Maybe it'll be a safe lane Night Stalker or something that we don't see too often.
Well, we've seen here and there. I can't remember exactly.
I've seen it a couple times.
Well, I was going to say, well, not even a safe lane Night Stalker. Who was it in C, or was it one of the early qualifier matches where we actually saw a team run a support Night Stalker?
Oh yeah, that was that's Orange.
Yeah, okay. I couldn't remember if it was towards the tailwind to C or if it was something that we had seen early on. All the matches begin to blend together. But yeah, one would think that'll end up being a core, and now the Visage to follow it up. Certainly keeping up with the general tone of things. Very, very aggressive.
And Air is notorious for his Panda. His Panda is ownage, so that option is still open. And
in their match earlier today, when they dropped one to C deck, The thing about Brewmaster, and we've seen it time and time again, saw it in the last match I casted even, it's not enough that you just go in, clap, split, and get a couple of kills. Like, so much of the significance of a Brewmaster pick seems to come down to what objectives you can pick up after that. Like, you don't want to leave tower standing after you get big wins. And Air actually really struggled against C-Deck to do that. He played fine, he played well, but in terms of translating it to any kind of tangible lead or gain, that just wasn't there for them.
I would like to see a Timbersaw 3 strength heroes. Yes, please. But that would make their lineup pretty melee heavy too. So Dreamtime lacking on a lot of things. They lack on disable. They lack terribly great lanes. Darkseer can get zoned out by these 2+1. Nightstalker not the most controlling of the mid lane, and especially with the Spectre pickup too. So that's a little unusual. I guess Nightstalker is pretty good in a 4-on-5, 4-on-4 situation to create space for Spectre, and Spectre actually can contribute a fair amount to early kills.
Yeah, I mean, if you end up going the max spectral dagger build and you can haunt into the tail end of fights and secure kills that way, I think you're 100% right, though, that an issue they're going to face is they're just, a lot of these targets are either elusive or tanky as hell. The Dragon Knight, the Centaur, certainly tough to bring down even if you do have some help, and a Sand King, very much in that same boat as well. So I kind of want to see how the lanes are going to end up working out as well. Spectre, just not a hero who plays particularly well from behind. She can be buoyed around early and has a hard time getting momentum afterwards.
Heavily depends on what CIS go. They could potentially aggro try. Sand King is pretty weak in aggro try. You can't stack your jungle, very low stun on level 1, pretty low armor, so a prime target to engage on. And AA is not particularly strong either. He's good offensively and like killing people, but in your safe lane, you're mostly just trying to not die, and I don't know if they can actually do that. But it is pretty important to actually shut down a Spectre. I don't even know if Visage +1 can shut down a Centaur. Centaur is just so damn beastly in lane.
Still waiting to see, and it is going to be an anti-mage. So Black going to what he knows and what he loves in this very, very important game.
Anti-Mage is one of the few heroes I think that can actually take on a Spectre late game. Usually when people pick Spectre, they know that an Anti-Mage won't be picked, or they actually ban it out. So I say of all the carries that I've seen in competitive, Anti-Mage usually fares the best in terms of raw late game versus late game potential.
Well, they certainly have. I really like CIS's draft because they have 4 heroes that can and will do very well at fighting early, especially if the Dragon Knight gets off to a good start. The Centaur gets a very quick blink, and then you can just leave the Anti-Mage alone, let him split push, let him farm. Or do you think maybe this is a game where they think about more of a hybrid mid-game build for the Anti-Mage?
Yeah, they don't need a hybrid mid-game build. I mean, he could go Vlad's after Battle Fury, but it's still your Battle Fury Manta, Battle Fury Vlad's Manta.
Right.
And they have a very good fighter, Sand King, AA, Dragon Knight, Centaur. They just need blinks on Sand King and Centaur, and they can just make life absolutely miserable for Spectre.
Waiting on our last pick now. Again, CIS and Dreamtime here at the Chinese qualifiers at the International Forum. And yeah, this is...
I think Dreamtime, they might think about aggro trying versus Anti-Mage. Because Darkseer versus Anti-Mage, Black has played this matchup so many times that it's actually, you just don't want to do it at the end of the day. Unless Darkseer's like really, really amazing, but like your average professional Darkseer overall probably be beaten by Black, and already you have an underhanded matchup in the Spectre versus Anti-Mage late game, so I think they might aggro this.
Yeah, the Venge gives them that possibility. Nice lead-off stun. Visage certainly works there. You'd thinking, obviously, the way to do it would be with the Night Stalker. But how do you feel about a Night Stalker in a lane like that?
I think they do it with Spectre.
Really? Aggro with the Spectre?
I think they can do it. Anti-Mage doesn't really contribute that much. It's like Spectre and AM are both equally useless. And then Visage is better than AA, I'd say slightly. And Venge is also slightly better than Sand King. So that kind of makes up for the safe lane advantage that CIS will have.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. And we'll see if that's going to end up being the choice and how they want to run this, as we are loaded in now and ready to jump into game. This is CIS versus Dreamtime, and I would love to see the game as soon as we get it on screen. There it is. Thank you much. But looks like something in our production died. That's always fun. But at any rate, we're running off of Merlini for the moment, as we're just now getting in the game on our observer. But moving out, we're going to see 5 group together very quickly and begin moving through that gang path along the Radiant side, Ancients, and we'll see if they're going to end up crossing over. Level 1 team fight advantage. Who you give it to?
Level 1, that one's tough. They're both not very good, because Dragon Knight usually doesn't get stunned at level 1, and Anti-Mage is not very useful at level 1 either, so maybe it's like slight advantage DT, because they have an Ion Shell. they're just both not good.
Yep.
Like,
That doesn't look like it's gonna
superior
matter.
position will win.
It doesn't look like it's going to matter all that much. We are getting a little bit of stutter, so hopefully that won't persist and we'll be a little bit more squared away. But for the moment, still waiting to see how these lanes are going to end up shaping up. It is going to be June on the Centaur in the off lane, so nothing too creative coming from CIS. Still waiting to see if DT is going to want to get aggressive. We can see a couple of wards have been dropped down in the dire side jungle, so shutting them down there as much as you can. Nope, just going to be defensive try versus defensive tries. It's just in July left up in the off lane for Radiant.
Yep, they have a couple of sentries out already, so that's pretty good. They can limit Sand King's farm. If they aren't going to aggro try, they need to trying to keep their supports in check. Either make sure that they don't gank the Night Stalker, they have the Observer Ward to protect against that, and make sure they don't get too greedy in the jungle, which the other two sentry wards will prevent. Looks like early Illusion Rules will come out from Centaur. Not sure if he's going to be able to block any spawns, though.
Yeah, giving it a shot, but looks like they should be able to bring it down in more than enough time. And looks like we are back to Merlini's camera as we're getting a quick reconnect. And yep, P-Dub, please. P-Dub, June. Looks like he may catch a little bit of auto attack here. I don't think they're actually going to sell out. Yeah, not at all. Just looking to zone him out a little bit up at top. The Darkseer, as you said, going to be up against quite a task. The Sand King and the Ancient Apparition, not only not bad, but like you said, Black, excellent, and just knows this matchup well. Who do you give the offlane advantage to?
Offlane advantage, probably. At this point, probably the Centaur, because he's gotten a little bit, and in July has actually pushed out his lane using Ion Shell, so he won't really get that Radiant advantage for a couple of waves to come.
Mid, Air going to be going up against the Dragon Knight, and should be fairly even for at least a little while. You think this is a game where we'll see the Night Stalker end up trying to farm the first night, or you think he's going to want to get active that early?
I think with the Spectre, you kind of have to farm, and then wait until he gets level 6, and then you'll be okay. So it looks like the bottle is going to come out much earlier for Night Stalker. So they actually had to use a Chicken to D-Ward, so that's going to set him back a lot in the mid lane. He's pretty much out of region. He can use one Tango right now, but he's going to have to wait a long time until he can actually play aggressively on Inflame, and he actually won't be able to get the 2-minute rune either because his bottle is still in this stash.
Yep, still waiting on it to come out. Very quiet early game, it would seem. And yeah, I mean, it's, looking at just the way the lineups stack up, again, you have a lot of team fight that's going to come to fruition very quickly for CIS as we continue to see the Night Stalker just bullied around quite heavily here in mid. And we're actually going to see the Ancient Apparition come down, get an eye on that region rune. But it seems like it's really on CIS to make their lineup work for them a little bit earlier than DT. DT is going to have the ability to initiate and counter-initiate, also the ability to roam very effectively, but it looks to me like CIS's squad is really going to be best served whenever they're grouped as 4 or more.
Yeah, but it looks like DT is able to play a little bit greedier, though they're already gotten off a couple of creep pulls, and Centaur's actually been more zoned out than the Darkseer. Darkseer is sitting at least some way in a level 1, and Centaur's absolutely 0 experience, and Sand King hasn't been able to stack any Camp Su, so that's pretty important.
Oh yeah, the holding down the Centaur and the Sand King, like you said, is really going to go a long way up. Hang on, July, hit with a Burrow Strike, and the Chilling Touch, extra damage, isn't enough. One more auto attack would have done it, one more do, as they pick him off under his own tier 1. And that last auto attack, all they needed. June simply cannot get into this jungle. Like you said, he's sitting at absolutely 0 overall experience, and in the meantime, the Spectre and the Anti-Mage are both farming up quite well, but CIS is just being so limited. The Centaur is shut down, and the Sand King, up until that kill, was completely shut down as well.
I don't think he should have Ion Shelled the first wave. He Ion Shelled the first wave, like right around here, and it got pushed up all the way up here, and it's very easy to zone out when the wave is over there, and AM's getting very, very good farm, too. He's equal to Spectre in terms of last hits, and actually has a ton more denies. So I don't think that was the best choice from Injuly. He's going to have to rotate to the jungle immediately.
And looks like, yep, going to move his way on down. But early game, 3.5 minutes in, ready for another attempted gank as DT's going to move 2 in. Air's trying to get ahead of him after the Void, but Inflame able to make it back under his own tier 1. Tipped her hand maybe a little bit too early that time around, and unable to follow it up. Didn't even get the Chilling Touch off, or the Grave Chill, rather.
So Sand King will finally start stacking, and rune control has also been in CIS's favor. We've seen them rotate to the top rune and check, but it looks like DT will try and get some rune control of their own, so maybe a little bit of action.
Invis. Demons, and by the way, Demons, last time I saw him play Sand King was absolutely absurd. His Sand King play is one of the bright spots that CIS has really had. Even in the games they've lost, he's been exceptional in his play on just about any hero, but again, the Sand King pick, really, really awesome for him. He's still hanging around mid with this Invis, and it looks like the Night Stalker playing very, very cautiously because of it. And we'll see if they're going to end up taking a run at him. For now, though, he is pulled back a little bit.
Yep, and now it's nighttime. Looks like Night Stalker has skilled up 1 point in Crippling Fear. Pretty good for killing heroes like Sand King and Centaur, but I don't know. Demons is sitting mid trying to kill him. I don't think they can kill him, though. It doesn't quite have enough mana for Dragon Tail and Breathe Fire unless he uses last bottle sip. And June finally getting some experience on bottom, comparing him to the Darkseer. About 1 level ahead, so passive form as you would expect. Let's see what Black is going for. Looks like an early Ring of Health into Battle Fury. Spectre has bought something. It's a Hand of Midas.
Yep. How you feel about the Midas pickup?
I think it's fine.
Yeah, I think it makes sense.
Spectre needs levels, I think, slightly more importantly than farm, because he can fight without items as long as he has significant levels.
Top lane. Looked like he will be able to make it away. I'm having a hard time adjusting your big icons. I have no idea how to tell how close they actually are to each other, because I play with the small ones. Looked a little closer than perhaps it really was, but a lot of passivity early on. 6 minutes in, only 1 kill, and honestly that was more a mistake from the Darkseer than it was any actual attempt at aggression. But I like the Midas. We said coming in we all expected this to go long, and no reason not to plan for it right off the bat, right?
Yeah, I think it's fine. I think he needs to outfarm AM in order to carry, in order to outcarry him. Like, even farm, I think AM wins. So he has to be really, really stacked, and Spectre can annihilate the opposing team with Radiance much faster than AM can kill all of DT.
Another smoke in mid. This time it'll be Air and Super. Looking to find an opportunity. Sand King's going to actually walk right down. Invis was picked up immediately, and they're going to go ahead and collapse top. Now, if they can get a kill up here, especially if they can bring down the Anti-Mage, it'll be huge. They're going to rotate 4 as a total. And we're actually going to see the Ancient Apparition bail out entirely. Looks like Black knows what's up, as he's going to get way up under the trees. And DT.
Oh, they're going to scout him out, though.
Yep.
This is a difficult kill. And Black, he needs to blink immediately.
And he does. 10 seconds, but no, there's a haunt in. They've got eyes on him, and he's silenced out. See if they got the damage. TPs are coming in. That's going to be Inflame that lands in, trying to turn this around. However, the Anti-Mage does drop. That alone makes this a worthwhile dive, but he's actually focusing down the wrong illusion. Now Inflame in trouble. They're going to rotate more up, but they're going to end up losing him if they're not very careful. Does what damage he can, but he does end up dropping by the time all is said and done. And CIS giving up kills on their 2 most important heroes at this stage of the game. 2-1, DT takes momentum.
It was really important that the supports didn't take the levels from Spectre. He was level 6 in the fight, and that's how they find the Anti-Mage in the trees. And that was just so important. They did cast a Wave of Terror, but it's not enough for them to actually kill him before his next blink cooldown. So, well executed by XDD. And Spectre you generally view as that passive farmy hero, but even with just Boots and Midas, already setting up kills.
Yep. Slowing down the Battle Fury on Black, ultra important, especially since he had that Midas up as early as he did. And Black has his Poor Man's and his Brown Boots, and not a whole hell of a lot else, just the Ring of Health, so still quite a ways to traverse for him to get caught up. And DT's beginning to bring out their first early items. Getting up the Soul Ring on the Darkseer is going to let him get a little bit more active if he wants to.
Yep, not sure what Spectre's going to go for. We usually see like Treads Drums, Phase Drums, or if he's farming really well, a Radiance, but I think he's going to have to deal with the threat of double blink. Not yet, but astute enough that he can't get a Naked Relic.
I was kind of wondering the same thing if this was a Radiance game, but
I think it's almost always a Radiance game, unless you're going to lose before you get it.
Right.
But like with the way the game's going for them, they should have enough time. But now daytime hit CIS, they're a little far behind right now, and Anti-Mage doesn't have Battle Fury. So pretty much what they have to do is just stack and farm, get blinks, and then after that they can move and get kills. But it looks like they're going to smoke, try and get a kill on old Spectre. But Super's in a pretty good position to reveal the smoke. There is an Invis on bottom. Super should scout it out, and I think he knows that Centaur is just walking there. And if he sees the runes disappear, he knows.
Yep.
I think he knows.
Yeah, he should.
Oh, maybe not. XDD, he's still staying in lane.
Yep, they're going to go ahead and bring 2 around. XDD does have Haunt available.
He just spent all his gold, though.
Yep, he's still going to be caught out. No, he Dragon Tails a creep instead, and now they're going to re-engage. There's the Chilling Touch, or the Grave Chill, and now a nice Burrow Strike, though, catches 2. That is once again Demons playing an excellent Sand King. He's been doing this all throughout the qualifier, and even though the Spectre does get away, it costs them 2 supports in the end.
Those 2 supports,
Visage.
You cannot stand next to each other as
No.
2 range supports versus 2 AoE stun. That just was too easy for the Sand King and Centaur. Double stun into double edge? No, thank you. Double edge. It was the double stun into the double edge.
The in and out approach to casting. We will have a couple of reactions down the bottom. Demons, though, again, he's a player to watch, man. Like, he is just such a monster on this Sand King and always has been. At least always has been throughout this qualifier.
I like how he's just not straight farming Blink, though. I like how he's moving around the map and putting Spectre out because he did, putting pressure on Spectre because he did just go for this really greedy build. So, I mean, it's, even if they had killed it, it wouldn't have been that big of a loss, and they ended up getting kind of a gift from DT by having those two supports go in on them, and Inflame actually kind of baited that out pretty well.
Coming up on 10 minutes now. Take a look at the goal graph, see where we stand. Yep, just about dead even. I think that's what we expected. Soon, though, we're actually going to see Demons start to go to work in the jungle. He did go ahead and place his third skill point in the Sandstorm, and been seeing a lot of different players take different approaches. He's going to get another stack on that. So once he clears that, he's actually going to be very close to his Blink Dagger and is going to catch up in levels quite a lot. But for now, who do you think the pressure is really on to try and break this laning phase down? I mean, we're going to be coming up on third night very soon for the Night Stalker.
I would
is that
say
DT's time?
DT because Night Stalker has to do something, or else he's not going to
Exactly.
be as useful as a Dragon Knight in the mid to late game, unless he's far ahead or the opponents are under level, both of which require him getting kills.
There's a double damage rune up in the river if they can get his hands on it. And again, we're about 90 seconds out from the sun setting and the Night Stalker spreading his wings. But yeah, I agree with you. It seems like, and yeah, they know it. He has to get active. Night Stalker's not a hero you pick to farm for 20, 25, 30 minutes into the game or later. Like, if he gets there and he's in great shape and can feel like a very, very potent carry, that's great. But it's all about pressure. It's all about diving. All about shutting down heroes like an Anti-Mage. And so far, they've gotten one decent set of kills, but haven't done much else. And now's going to be the time they try to change it. As the Venge looking for Black, there's going to be the Wave of Terror. And going to get eyes on him, and there's going to be the Haunt in. Magic Missile leads. XDD in the meantime doing good damage because of Desolate. Black trying to find his way out and will be able to blink, but finally tracked down by XDD Spectral Dagger.
Where's his support?
Yep, he got the Ancient Apparition ult, but not a whole lot else. And let's see, is Dreamy You? Nope, he will survive. Well played.
Yeah, he needs his supports to be there. Like, just, yeah, no TPs on, no Sand King. AA, he can't do anything. Dragon Knight can definitely do something, so... Yeah, I mean, I think they just need to do a better job of protecting Black. He has good map sense. He blinks out before they can initiate, even with the smoke, given it's daytime. But still, he should not be this. He should not have 2 deaths. And looking at net worth, that's pretty scary that Spectre is that far ahead of the Anti-Mage.
Black is known for taking games like this and just suddenly showing up with an entire shop's worth of items in his inventory. But the way the DT's playing this, like, that's still a whole lot to ask. And like you said, the Spectre, all the while, is generating quite a huge lead for herself. And, you know, the fact that happened during Day as well. Day without Air actually using his ultimate was a big deal in and of itself. Now they're going to silence out Inflame, helps coming, but not going to over-pursue. Wise not to rush up the hill blindly there. And they are going to end up denying the tower in mid as well.
They can do it. You can dive.
Go straight man mode, son.
So, tower denied, but Dragon Knight still gets a tower, will limit Night Stalker's ability to move around the map, and looks like they want to retaliate with a push on your own. Old Visage is already level 6.
They're going to loop around, see what they can find. They're going to find an Ancient Apparition, and the damage should be very tough, and will be, as Air now on a killing spree. Again, getting that 1 kill during daytime, a big deal. Now beginning to pile them up during the night as well. He's still got quite a few minutes left of nighttime. Black taking the opportunity to try to split push top. He is beginning to build a little bit of gold back, though. He's got about 1,200 tucked away.
And both offlaners are ridiculously poor. Darkseer just Ring of Regen and Soul Ring and Brown Boots, and Centaur is actually fairly close to his Blink Dagger, but this is about the time where you usually see him come out, especially with 0 deaths on Centaur and 1 kill.
Yep. Good news, though, Demons on that Sand King does have his own blink up. Went to work in the jungle and came out a wealthy man. But we will see some collapsing now on the bottom. June's going to have to rotate over. And he's got help coming from behind, so XDD and Super could be in danger here if they're not very, very careful. Yeah, they're going to smoke and try to catch them, perhaps on the retreat.
But Spectre already spent all his gold again, so I think that Spectre's been doing a very, very good job of managing his gold, managing his items.
There's the blink shown off and the epicenter to follow it. Good kill on XDD, Demons. Not a lot of health left, but just enough up at top in the meantime, though. DT wants the counter punch a bit, and actually the Visage Birds are going to get a solo kill onto Demons, so well played there. DT takes down the tier 1 in the meantime.
OP Birds. Still, I don't actually know who got the better end of that. I guess killing Spectre is pretty important, but he won't actually lose anything, and he actually ends up with more gold because of the tower on top. And I think losing towers, I think, is a bigger deal for CIS because anti-mage, I think, is farmed to juggle a lot more than the Spectre does.
That bird is continuing to harass June, and we can see it actually took a lot of damage, but dealt quite a bit as well. He will be able to pull back, and they're actually going to haunt in XDD. Yeah, he's going to get a solo kill here. Didn't even have to use, actually lagging so bad. I was going to say he didn't have to use Spectral Dagger, but he did. But we will be switching to our good friend Merlini's camera now as the connection issues do continue. And it seems that this is always the weird thing. Like, you haven't had any issues at all, but our poor observer has. Big TP's coming in at once, and the birds are there to try and get the stun. XDD trying to pursue him out, but very quickly with that haste rune, Dragon Knight flees to safety. So 15 minutes in, we got 10 kills on the board. DT, though, seems to be getting the better end of things. However, you can see CIS is right within striking distance.
Yeah, gold lead exactly at 0 at this point, and Black is kind of catching up. Dragon Knight's doing a job of pressuring, but they still have a couple minutes left on nighttime. Looks like DT burning through all their smokes in the early game and going to walk right into 3 of them.
There we go. They're going to re-engage. Another great burrow strike, and they're going to just punish them horribly for getting this aggressive, rushing uphill without a warning. CIS may lose in flame. The birds are right on it. No, they're actually going to go for the courier. Didn't see if they got it. No, they didn't get either of them. So both the Dragon Knight and the courier make it away, and XDD now about to be punished as well. And yeah, so basically DT got nothing and lost everything. Horrendous turn of events for them.
That was a little
suspect.
I mean, it wasn't a bad idea, but I think they should have waited at least until the Spectre ultimate. I don't actually know if he had it up at that point. I don't think he did. And they don't have the mech on Darkseer, although it wouldn't have made a difference. He doesn't have any points in vacuum yet. So Spectre, or Darkseer should have his mech about the same time that Centaur has his Blink Dagger, and they just were so prepared for that too. Centaur with immediate Blink and Sankey with immediate Blink stun too. So now the double Blink duo is going to start wrecking people, and on top of that, they have the stun from Dragon Knight. So they just have so much disabled for DT, and they have to farm BKB. But Night Stalker, he doesn't want to spend his time farming at nighttime. He wants to spend his time killing people, but they're not going to be able to make a move until 20 minutes, 2021.
Well, it seems like this is just kind of a tough situation for DT because they have a lineup that, I mean, the Night Stalker in particular is really the one that this question arises for. Is, as you said, he needs to be useful early. I mean, he can scale okay if he manages to stay ahead in Golden Farm, but for the most part, this is his wheelhouse. This is when he should be doing the vast majority of his work and giving the vast majority of value, but you're having to deal with a CIS team that has an immense amount of stun compared to your own squad. Like, when you look at hard disables, what do they have? They've got Magic Missile, and that's pretty much it. CIS, on the other hand, they've got AoE from the Centaur, AoE from the Sand King, they've got a great single target stun in the Dragon Tail, and it's just so tough, I think, once CIS groups up as 3 or 4 to really pressure into that, be it nighttime or not.
Yep. AE ult 2, tons of damage. If they get hit by Epicenter 2, they're just going to get wrecked. So they pretty much have to back off. It looks like Jimmy U's going to get caught out and left out to dry.
Yep, June there to help finish things up, takes the kill with the double edge. That's what I'm talking about. Like, they honestly don't need more than 3. Like, if you put the Dragon Knight, the Sand King, and the Centaur together, so let them hunt, headhunt together, have the Ancient Apparition doing whatever the hell you want him to do elsewhere, and then let Black go split push or farm elsewhere, you're going to be fine. It looks like Dyer's Courier actually picked off by the birds from DT. Didn't see if that had anything on it, though.
And Spectre, he looks like he's going for a Diffusal or a Mantis style. I still think he needs Radiance. Is especially good versus dual Blink Dagger. One from the Centaur, one for Sand King. If you don't use it on Sand King, he's just going to Sandstorm and then wreck you back with Blink Dagger. So it's kind of nice, but they're not really mid-game fighting too much, especially after that botched move close to the Dire Ancients.
CIS, I was curious if they were going to try to push a tower, but for now, it just looks like DT is kind of up against it. And CIS, it seems like, is beginning to realize that. Black did finish his Battle Fury at about 18 minutes, actually a little short of that. So they're in great shape. Taking a look at the items, we can see June with his Buckler on the way, too. And yeah, that was a dead Courier, actually. So the Courier did have some pretty big items, Mithril Hammer and a Buckler.
And Dragon Knight scouting some people out, but still does not have BKB. He has to be pretty darn scared too. He's just not tanky enough to deal with it, especially going with the phase boots instead of the treads. Oh, okay.
We just got word from our awesome observer, Mr. LD Dota, that yeah, if the Courier hadn't died there, he would have had his BKB, and making quite a big difference.
So Doesn't look like they've stacked it all for the anti-mage. They have dumped Observer Wards all around his jungle, though, making sure that he can't just stack and farm very passively. But at the same time, I don't really think DT can take a fight there if CIS are, like, in the vicinity, like, close to the T2s. So that's a risky proposition for the wards, and I think they should be more worried about securing this T1 tower in mid.
Yep, Darkseer very close to having his mech complete. And really, that's going to be kind of the moment in which they're going to have to execute. I mean, the Spectre is farming very well, as you mentioned, and not going for the Radiance as you anticipated, so well called there.
Oh, I said he should go for it.
Oh, well, you said you thought every game was a Radiance, but it's a question of, is he going to have time to get it up reliably?
Yeah, at the same time, I think he can fight. He already has Phase, Drums, and Midas. I think that's enough early game. Just dump an Ion Shell on him, and he'll do enough damage. And Night Stalker's BKB is coming out soon, too, so he'll be a pretty high priority target to have to worry about in team fights. I think he could have gotten away with it. And let's see, if he didn't buy his Blade of Alacrity, he have 2,500 gold right now. That's pretty good.
Yeah, not too far.
But looking to play it a little bit safer, not going for the greedy build. But, I mean, Spectre's all about going late.
Now, both of these teams, again, with a lot on the line. In this game in particular. And if they can delay the game and secure themselves as safe a late game as they can, I'm sure that's pretty much always going to be the choice. Black having his Battle Fury up, though, does feel like it kind of puts DT on a timer. Black is one of the best anti-mage players in the world, and you don't want to let him just run roughshod all over the map. How do you feel about the Spectre anti-mage matchup late, all things being equal?
I think AM's going to win it out. He's behind in net worth right now, but he does have Battle Fury. Spectre doesn't really have any farming tools, too. If you go Manta or Diffusal, it doesn't help you farm any faster. Radiance just accelerates your farm so fast and actually lets you keep up on pace with a blinking anti-mage who's cleaving down stacks. And looks like anti-mage has not had any ancient stacks either, which is a little bit unfortunate for him, but still, he will be able to just power farm through while DT's running around anticipating the next move from CIS.
We can see the Visage Familiars pecking away at that mid tower any chance they get, so Super being as annoying as he possibly can. But Anti-Mage is right on the tail of the Spectre now. Actually just surpassed Spectre in terms of overall net worth. And I'm actually liking the way CIS is looking right now. I think the lack of control for DT and the fact that the Night Stalker has not been nearly as big an influence on this game as of 20 minutes is really going to end up biting DT in the butt.
Yeah, I think that's one of the big problems with Night Stalker is like teams know exactly when you're going to gank, when you don't gank, and he's pretty useless versus BKB, and he's also very useless during daytime. So he has a lot of things working for him. The time that his window is just so small.
Oh, they're going to get XDD. Could not have timed it up any better.
Oh, jeez.
And CIS, on the back of some excellent support play, is not only going to be able to pick him off, but are they going to be able to... Oh, so annoying. And here comes CIS to get the deny. So I was gonna say if they could get there to deny it in time. DT, though, beginning to fight with a bit of an air of desperation. They're beginning to push top, and Knight will be coming very soon. But yeah, this is a time for CIS to shine. They have a bit of a lead, and let's see if they can capitalize on it.
In Black we trust?
Yeah. Black's been looking good. Ice Splash should be off cooldown here shortly. And DT is pushing very hard, though. If nothing else, they're beginning to really wear on those towers.
CIS doesn't, or sorry, DT doesn't really have anything against BKB, which I think is pretty scary. Like,
Inflame caught. Let's see if they can capitalize. They can. We're going to see the BKB used by Air. Demons has to run, and the Ancient Apparition cleaned up from behind. Now June could be the target, and he will be caught, and that's a huge win, bringing down those three for CIS. And now they should be able to turn around and take the tower too. Black, though, has been using all this time to farm his brains out. He's at 3,300 gold now.
Nope. Should probably just be a Manta, unless they want to do Roche. Then you can just go Vlad's, and they do have the good enough line to take out Roche. DT taking that fight off the back of Night Stalker's BKB, so kind of edging Dragon Knight out in that category.
Yep. Diffusal going to be the pickup now for the Spectre. And at what point do you feel like either of these squads, like, do you think Black's going to end up going with more of a mid-game approach, or is he going to be going super hard farm?
I think he can. I think they need to get the Aegis, or at least deny it from Spectre, because CIS, as we just saw, has the potential to lose a big fight during nighttime.
Yep.
And then they might just swing in and get Roshan at the same time. So, it's about even either way. It depends on how good they think the Roshan control is.
Air picking up his point booster, perhaps on the way to a Scepter, one would imagine. at any rate. The DK is beginning to fall off a little bit in farm, but not in horrendous shape. For the moment, though, CIS does maintain a bit of a lead. However, it's been cut down quite sharply over the last few minutes just by DT, really putting their lineup to use. And the thing is, I feel like they just need to continue it. Like, what we saw at top brought things right back to a reasonable range. It's 9-11. CIS is playing much more defensively now, but I feel like if they back off and just continue to let Black have his entire side of the map to himself, they're going to end up regretting it very, very soon.
Yeah, a lot of the heroes like start to level out pretty soon to Visage, Venge, and Darkseer, I say, whereas like Centaur and Sand King, they'll always have their blink stuns.
Yep.
So I think that DT, they really do have to make a move soon.
Could be a big clash in mid as we've got DT under cover of smoke again. Little do they know they're about to run right into a 5-man of CIS if they don't split up. Air right out front, has the Ion Shell. He's going to run in, and now they're going to try to engage. There's a silence on the Black, but the swap brings it back too. Can they clean him up in time? They will. However, here's the counter initiation. DT, though, doing a good job of managing this fight, brings down 2, and Dreamy U right there behind the Sand King as well. Thought he was going to have a stun. Looks like Magic Missile must have been on cooldown a little bit longer than he would have liked. Bought time for the BKB on the Dragon Knight nonetheless. That's another big win. They end up picking off Black, and honestly, CIS seemed totally surprised by that. They had enough personnel in range. They should have been able to counter-initiate very well. They just didn't.
They tried to, is the thing. They had the immediate stampede as soon as he got silence avoided, and the swap from Dreamy U into that stun set up the kill on Anti-Mage. So Vengeful Spirit played that very well. He was not stingy with his cooldowns, and it yielded a very high priority Anti-Mage kill. But Anti-Mage, he probably won't be in the same position once he gets his Mantis down. He was actually very, very close to it before that fight. But now Anti-Mage and Spectre, they're pretty much even in terms of gold, and the gold graph should be pretty even after this too.
Yep. How do you feel about the momentum of this game? Has Dreamtime turned it around enough? Have they caught the Night Stalker up enough?
I think Night Stalker just levels out so much. Like, if you look at the late game potential from CIS, it's just mass BKBs and mass blink stuns. Whereas DT, they have a lot of damage, but nothing that can really deal with BKB. So I think CIS can just kind of, not Zerg rush them, but just face rush them with BKB.
Right.
Later.
Yeah, exactly. Much later. That's we all kind of predicted that. I still see that definitely holding true. In terms of towers, we can see one tier 1 is still standing for DT. They're down to the tier 2s in mid and bottom. But CIS only with well, actually no, it's about the same for CIS too.
Both team has picked up gems. One on Visage, or actually Night Stalker, and one on Dragon Knight. So having gems is very important at this point in the game. Night Stalker can't afford to run into Observer Wards and waste his precious ganking time, especially when they blew through all their smokes this early.
Right.
And CIS can't afford DT having eyes on their anti-mage at all times.
Well, Black is just about done with his Manta style after all. And at what point do you think Black's going to start showing up to fights more often?
Once DT gives him a little bit more room to breathe. Once he gets his Manta style, that's pretty much the word go for anti-mage, unless there's like a really easy mana void target like Darkseer who is tower diving.
Right.
You just TP and mana void and clean up, but for the most part, you wait until your Manta style.
What do you think about the build? Like, what build is DK going to look to go for here? I mean, item like Assault Cuirass would certainly make sense.
AC is probably the way to go.
Yeah, AC is always the way to go, dude.
He can also go for a Halberd, but Halberd's not particularly useful. Night Stalker will have BKB, and Spectre still has plenty of illusion.
I don't think Night Stalker is going to be, like, by the time we hit the late game, I don't think Night Stalker is going to be that big of a concern.
He will have Scepter soon, though, so he will be their eyes.
Right. In terms of damage output, though, like you were saying, I mean, you've got a team that's primarily composed of things that are shut down by BKB. So if you get an Assault Cuirass up, it's to tank your whole team up with Assault Cuirass and Vlads, perhaps.
The wrap around from behind, Inflame. He might lose his gem here.
He's going to be able to BKB back. Here comes the Haunt in, though. Black able to make it back as well. AA Ultimate does collapse. June ends up dropping just in front of his own Tier 3. And the rest of DT going to go ahead and pull back. So
that was a great maneuver by them, smoking into this pretty risky territory, I say, but they had vision. Night Stalker peeped over here, saw that there were only a couple of heroes, and they wrapped it around appropriately because CIS just didn't see that coming.
CIS able to hold, though. They lost to Centaur, and that stinks, but the Tier 2 still standing for the moment, and we'll see if they actually want to defend. Everyone's playing quite far back. Demon's in position for Epicenter if he wants it, but DT not going to gamble. They're going to go ahead and pull back onto their own side of the map and send the Spectre back to farming. Speaking of Spectre, she's got a Yasha of her own, and potentially on her way to a Manta style.
Yeah, and then after that, I guess like Heart Butterfly is probably the best build for her, and Anti-Mage not going for any intermediate items. He's also going for like the ideal 6-slotted items.
Well, yeah. If this game goes less than an hour, I'll be shocked. Like the only thing that really would have changed my opinion about that would have been if it was just a dominant performance out of either team in the first half an hour. But that hasn't been the case. We're basically dead even. Black's actually going to engage on XDD and shove him out of lane for the moment. How do you like the way the teams are stacking up in the mid game? Who do you give the advantage to?
Mid game, slight advantage DT, just because they can pick way better fights during nighttime because they have the superior vision with Night Stalker. And then once he gets a Scepter, they can almost always take fights during nighttime. He won't be level 16 for a while though, and they don't have BKB on Centaur or Sand King yet, so those two heroes are still very, very vulnerable to burst. And as you saw, like Anti-Mage can die too, so he pretty much is going to avoid fighting until he gets his next item too.
Yep.
And usually it's Manta, but he's died 3 times already, and that's probably 3 times too many.
Looks like we're not the only ones having connection issues. We've had to bounce back and forth through observers, and it looks like the players are having a damn hard time staying connected as well. If you're just tuning in, I'm your host, Aaron AC Chambers, joined by Merlini for insight and analysis. And we're here, coming down the home stretch now in the Chinese qualifying first stage, the round-robin best-of-ones, DT versus CIS. Not necessarily make or break for either team, but when...
Make or break for CIS, I think.
Yeah.
Actually, I guess both are 5 and 3.
Yeah, if CIS can split their
Or
last
5 and
two,
3.
if CIS can split their last two, they should be in the tiebreak.
They're playing CNB.
Yep.
So that's
Yep,
pretty much
exactly.
a win. So I guess they're...
Well, for CIS, it's more, if they win this, then they're pretty much guaranteed to win against CMB, then they
Yes.
almost guarantee that they're going to be above the tiebreakers.
Mhm.
And
DT Club, a win here secures them above the tiebreakers. too.
Yep, exactly. Pretty much just secures them a top 2 seed.
They have to
without a
play
doubt.
LGD next, so this one is super important for them.
Yep,
We might
exactly.
actually see CIS with a better record than DT.
Which is shocking, really.
Yeah, it really is. It really would be.
But how do you feel about CIS and their performance? I mean, like, it's been up and it's been down, but coming into this, everyone kind of viewed them, at least it seemed to me, as a curiosity. It's like, oh, they got Black, and we care for that reason. But they honestly haven't played all that bad.
Yeah, they have some pretty decent showings in a couple of the tournaments that I've seen them play in, but they are inconsistent, and you really do need consistency to go far in a format such as the qualifier group stage.
Waiting for our last player to connect. We can see it's just about dead even in terms of gold earned, but as we've already discussed, that would seem to favor the Anti-Mage. And, Spectre's not bad at flash farming. She's not as good without a Radiance, but it's going to be Black who ends up filling his 6 slots first, unless there's a huge effort from DT to hold him down. And in the ultra late game, all things being equal 6 versus 6, it would seem to be an advantage to Anti-Mage there as well. So with that in mind, DT have done a better job of getting the Night Stalker active, but the BKBs, like you said, are beginning to come out, and there's no doubt they're going to continue to come out. How do you prepare for that, and what's the game plan to adjust to that?
Sheep on Darkseer. I think that's the most important one by far. Spectre is a very poor Abyssal Blade carrier. Usually you rely on Dispersion for damage, and you don't really need Lockdown because if you're taking damage, you're still doing damage. So they won't have any anti-BKBs besides Sheep, I'd say.
Black forced off the tower. He was split pushing. Now they're going to re-engage, and XDD took the bait hard. He's going to be cleaned up. And, yeah, that was about as well executed as they could have done it.
Why would he chase an Anti-Mage there?
No
though?
idea.
Like, how is a Spectre supposed to kill an Anti-Mage? That's, I mean, like, unless you have Abyssal or something like that, or any sort of backup, but he just did not, and he bit on that bait really hard.
There's going to be a stun. Nice BKB to turn it around. Now he's going to catch Dreamy U with the Dragon Tail. And we are getting some lag once again, so I'll be watching Ben's screen. Let's see. They are going to pursue this out. And it looks like another magic missile will connect, but DT being very careful and trying to re-engage. Now the vacuum's there, wall on the mark. June, though, going to end up getting a little bit of damage. It looks like he wants to sacrifice himself to buy time for everyone else to pull back. Is Air that ends up getting the kill there. That puts him on a dominating streak. So they get the Centaur, but they lost the Spectre beforehand. That still seems like a pretty big win for CIS.
Yeah, and now looks like Dragon Knight has actually opted for a Shadow Blade instead of the AC next. And I think actually Shadow Blade's pretty good because usually you'll see them run around as 4, and the Spectre will haunt into fights, but Spectre won't actually have any vision himself. So he's still somewhat vulnerable to like a DK stun into an Epi Blink, or a Burrow Strike, or DK stun into like a Centaur combo too. Those are still pretty pretty. They will kill him, especially combined with A ultimate. So as long as they can keep picking out Spectre, they're pretty good for late game. But they have to kill him a lot more times. Both carries not doing too terribly well.
Yep. Black did pick up his Vlads, by the way. So that's going to make Roshan a possibility, and yeah, we're going to see that possibility come to fruition right now. He's got AO there helping protect him. Shoots out the A ultimate, but AO is actually getting very close to having his Scepter done as well. So the overall item progression for CIS seems to be pretty much on the mark, though they do decide to go ahead and vacate out of the Roche pit as DT spotted it with the Visage Familiars.
Everyone's lagging, but nice play from Super, scouting out the Roshan very, very early with the Familiars, and that will certainly dissuade Anti-Mage from trying to take it out. And now DT definitely know that they're eyeing that Roshan pit too, so maybe they want to push down these T2s relatively soon, but at the same time, I don't actually think they can do so. Night Stalker does have a Scepter, but it's not nighttime for quite a few minutes.
Well, Scepter's more of a utility item on a Night Stalker anyway. It's not an item that's going to let him just go, oh, okay, I can go be a really mean, heavy-hitting carry, past 30 minutes, especially with the Dragon Knight and the Anti-Mage.
Well, the way CIS is playing, it's pretty useful, because then they can just kill Anti-Mage. And they'll also be able to scout out Dragon Knight before he comes in the fights, especially if he tries to utilize Fog.
Right.
So I think,
like I said, it's a utility item. It's not a big damage.
They need Basher on him.
Yep. I was kind of thinking the same thing, Basher or something along those lines. They need more lockdown is what they need, period. They're just so lacking in stuns right now. And it feels like DT has to execute very, very well to get a decent result. Whereas CIS, if DT just drops a Stitch for a minute, CIS just has so many ways they can counter-initiate a fight with Stomp, with the A ultimate, with the Burrow Strike and Epicenter, that it just feels like DT's really fighting uphill. They're having to execute at a much higher level to get similar results to CIS, who basically are formatting and buying time for Black, and Black's just getting huge.
Yeah, right now they pretty much have to rely on Night Stalker slow, which gets countered by Stampede, Vengeful Stun, which will get countered by AA's Force Staff, which is coming out pretty soon too. Yep. So their chain of initiation is just really poor. Like Spectre ults, like whatever, Anti-Mage doesn't care; he'll just blink away, and that's probably where the majority of Spectre damage comes from.
You think he's going to end up building the Force Staff instead of the Axe first?
Yeah, I think so. It's all about protecting Black. Like his damage is nice, but they need to save Black. They need him to get really huge in order to win the late game. And look at Networth, he's getting there, even with 3 deaths.
It's kind of hard to believe he's died 3 times. It doesn't feel that way. Usually when an Anti-Mage dies that often in the first 20-30 minutes, it feels like it. He feels like he's fighting uphill, but that's just the Black effect, man. Whenever he's put in a position like this, he just always finds his form. And it's tough to argue that there's really many better than him in terms of playing from behind in a hard farming carry.
Especially on Anti-Mage.
Yeah, that's just his jam.
He's only gone at 1 point in the Spell Shield, which is, I guess, pretty good here. They don't really have that much magic damage, a lot from Visage, but aside from that, Mana Void, a lot of small things coming out. So Visage Bird's parked over the Roshan pit, and we also see Demon trying to be a little bit cheeky. I don't think he can kill XDD, though. He has 1100 HP with max Dispersion, so that's not happening.
Black blinks in and brings down the birds just out of pure annoyance. But hey, 200 gold, dude. Efficiency, right?
Efficiency indeed. And Familiar as well. Immediately go back there. This is a good play from them, though. Anti-Mage Vlad's, I think, is kind of a wasted slot. He's going to have to end up selling it, and if they don't secure Roshan with it, it's not the greatest item. Armor is like somewhat useful, but Spectre, a lot of his damage is pure.
Still feel like the Shadow Blade was the right pickup on the Dragon Knight. I still just, when I think about just how tough CIS's team would feel if they had both a Vlad's and an Assault Cuirass, it's just
yeah, but they're not
hard.
5-manning though, right? If they were 5-manning a lot more and just like baiting out the Anti-Mage more, then I think it'd be fine. And DT's like kind of bringing it to them, but I think he'll get it quickly enough.
We'll find out.
Oh, that was
they're
close.
smoked up. Yeah, that Venge.
They need a sheep though. I don't think they should have gotten a BKB on Darkseer.
Yeah.
Because if they like swap into a sheep, that hero should be dead and won't have a chance to pop BKB.
CIS is playing this pretty spread out for the moment. It looks like they know something's up as they're playing fairly safe in mid, but down at bottom they're actually extended quite a bit.
About to be nighttime indefinitely.
Almost there. Nighttime coming up now. And looks like I think they anticipate this, as they're just going to go ahead and push bottom, and now DT has to make a decision. What are you going to do? Do you dive the tier 2 and hope they don't react quickly enough? Nope, they're going to go ahead and send help back down to bottom. So CIS dodges a bullet. I honestly think that's just good game sense from them. They just realized the complexion of the situation and abused it.
DT's pretty much been doing the same thing, though. It's just roam around his 4, wait for Spectre, If they don't fight, he keeps farming. They do fight, he haunts in. So I think the gameplay from DT is actually rather predictable, and they need to just keep taking down towers. But at the same time, they don't really have a great tower sieging lineup. And Darkseer without a blink, without a sheep, it's difficult to get those nice initiations that he needs.
Now grouping again, like you said, pretty much permanite. The Night Stalker with his scepter. Not going to be letting much of anyone see anything, but his vision going to be quite huge. And still looking to get aggressive as much as they possibly can. You can see just how much you can see. The defense on for CIS, and they got to be real careful with their positioning. You know, if they can bait out a little bit of an overextension, Black just goes in and goes after a bird, pops the Manta. Now they may end up going for it. There's going to be the Stampede. June ends up catching one with the stomp, but only one. There's a great vacuum into the wall, though. Epicenter's there to help turn it around, and CIS now giving them the old heave-ho and tossing them out of this middle lane. Black, though, overextends a bit, and yeah, just comes forward and ends up dying. If they get XDD, it won't be the end of the world, and they will. So it ends up being a 3-for-1 exchange. That one, though, completely and utterly unnecessary. Black just flat out fed there.
If he didn't do that, they would be able to get a rotation. So that's actually a pretty big loss. They did trade 3-for-1, though, and they did get the Spectre at the end of the day. So CIS looking really good, gearing up into the late game, and I mean Spectre, he just doesn't really do that much versus BKBs.
Nope.
And I think he needs to either be like super stacked so that he can just chop through them, or bait out the BKBs very, very early, or I don't know, get more kills early. But they weren't able to do that just because of the way CIS was playing. They didn't give them many opportunities.
I'll tell you what, man, Demons again on that Sand King, phenomenal play. It was an excellent vacuum wall. But with Demons there, with the immediate follow-up on the Epicenter, just anticipating where the center of the fight was going to be, and just money in the bank as soon as the vacuum wall happened. That turned that entire fight around for the most part. And like you said, the fact that Anti-Mage is still down is actually kind of a big deal. CIS should have taken a much larger lead off of that win, but nonetheless, we're beginning to see those limitations of DT's lineup kick in. It's exactly what we talked about during the draft. You know, the counter initiation potential of CIS is gigantic, and that was a fight where Black overextended to go after birds, manted and got caught, and still nonetheless, CIS able to just catch them out and punish them.
Yeah, Vengeance just falling off at this point. Visage, he keeps feeding his birds away. He's not that close to Scepters, and I mean AA and Sand King are still going to be really useful. Sand King has a 4-staff now on top of his Blink Dagger, so he can save Black for some potential danger. Ancient Apparition, his Ags upgrade is, I'd say, much more useful than Visage's, although Visage is pretty good too.
Ultimate, a collective chuckle went up from the production crew as that Ultimate caught 3 or 4, all of them under cover of smoke, so a little bit of luck from the Ancient Apparition there. They're going to collapse on top, and they could take a run at Black. Black's the target. Can they catch him? Oh! Gets caught and can't blink now that he's silenced. He will go ahead and Manta. There's going to be the vacuum back, but he does get the blink off. Magic Missile's there to follow and swap back. Great play from DT. Still Black's alive, and he does manage to make it away by the skin of his teeth. CIS, though, may end up... No, never mind. I thought DT was for
he
sure
died from the very last tick to the urn. Oh, my goodness. Wow. It was literally the last tick of urn.
Could not have cut it closer for either side. That was a team effort on both sides to bring Black down. Unbelievable synergy from DT, and CIS there to help out their buddy as well. But like you said, it's a game of inches, dude, and that last tick of the urn, all it took.
Wow, really? That last tick of urn. I mean, he even had 4 points in, or like maximum points in the stats. It's ridiculous.
Another A ultimate will not quite scare them away. And deny attempt from Inflame, a little late. So DT knots it up kill-wise, makes it 15-15. That's twice now Black has died in just the last few minutes. That might be enough to slow things down enough for Spectre to get on par.
But still, they get one important kill on an anti-mage, but all they kill was a T2 that was already at like 10% anyways. Right. They aren't even able to consider doing Roshan because of AA and Sand King. They can probably get wiped by AA and Sand King alone if they hit everything. So Spectre still needs a lot more items, and probably working on a Heart next. I'd say that's the right item for him.
Seems
a little bit better than Butterfly.
It's kind of what I was thinking too. Heart then Butterfly later.
Yep. He needs both. He needs a lot.
It just, again, you know, in any given Dota game, there can be things that can screw a team. You know, be it, you know, too heavy on magic damage, not enough physical damage, or the opposite, and so on. But for right now, it seems like what's really hurting DT is, especially coming down the stretch, is one, the matchup between the Anti-Mage and the Spectre, but mostly, again, just their lack of lockdown. They have ways to manipulate the fights very well. You know, they have Vacuum Wall, they have Swap, and so on. but just in terms of punishing CIS, in terms of locking down a hero like an Anti-Mage who is innately tough to get eyes on and innately tough to get on top of. Same thing with the Sand King. I don't know. I really fear for DT coming into the late game.
They have nothing versus BKB. No real good source of physical damage and no hard stuns or spells that will go through it. Like a Blink Initiation is pretty good versus BKB, as well as Abyssals, as well as like Luna or something who can just chop through your armor. But Spectre, he just doesn't do any damage to people during BKB. And I mean, it's probably going to get to that point in the game where everyone's going to have BKB on CIS.
Do want to point out Demons is setting up a trap as much as he can over on the side. You can see he's actually got the ward up on the high ground, and he's hiding out in the trees here in lane. And then if I'm not mistaken, is that their courier up at the shop? Is that Radiance courier? Okay, it's Radiance. Never mind. I thought he had that there, perhaps to add a little bit of extra sight in case someone did come through the secret shop. But instead, just kicking it for the moment. But Scepter done on AO in the meantime. He did prioritize that over the Force Staff after all.
So Anti-Mage has a BKB now. Like, how do they kill Anti-Mage with the BKB?
Exactly.
Like, they can't.
It took all 5 of them to kill him once without it.
Ancient Apparition actually had a Ring of Regen, so I thought he was going to build the Force Staff, but I guess he sold it in the process.
Well, he already had the point booster up. That's kind of why I thought
yeah,
Scepter would make more sense.
I think it's more important that he saves Black, though, than do damage. They already have plenty of damage dealers. As long as Black survives, they have the sustained damage with the mass chain stuns to win the fights.
Black right now is right there with that Spectre in terms of net worth. He has a slight edge for the moment. Roshan is back up, and we'll see if they want to try to do... Or it's still up, I should say, more appropriately. Still up, never did drop.
Visit birds have fed again. And Super has fed so many birds, but it's... He's tried to get information around the map. I don't think it's been that effective, though.
Like an old man at the park spends his days feeding birds. And the Roshan pit seems to be the point of contention for the moment. But DT has to play cautiously, I think. Like at this stage, I actually feel like it's much more on DT to make sure that they don't make any mistakes. The CIS can just punish them so heavily.
Yeah, one mistake leads to Roshan, leads to Anti-Mage getting way far ahead over Spectre, and will probably lead to the end of the game, or next Roshan, and then same process will repeat itself. So they just need to make sure they don't fall early and just don't let that first mistake happen. Whereas DT, as you saw, just got a free pick off on the Anti-Mage and weren't able to transition that into anything. So Black will go into the Roshan pit. There are no birds left. 60 seconds left on the Visage, and it has hit daytime, so that is Black's cue to go in. Night Stalker doesn't have ultimate up for 80 seconds. It's the perfect time for them to take Roshan.
They're hovering around. There's going to be an Invis that's spotted. Let's see, is she going to use it to move in? CIS, yep.
Too late.
Here we go. Vin's going to end up blown up. Now there's going to be the Stampede as well. Immediately one's down. There's going to be a vacuum, but it doesn't matter. Vacuum and wall went down, but CIS has mass BKBs, and they're just chopping wood on DT right now. They can't do a whole lot. They lost the Ancient Apparition. Black's still doing work. There's going to be the Epicenter. That actually doesn't catch much. And this has just been a wonky fight. Should have been a one fight for CIS pretty handily, and instead Black's going to end up dying. And Demons is going to be heading up to the high ground.
Roshan's so low, don't leave it!
Black buys back, and Roche is very low. Air moved in for a second. Centaur's still on the high ground, and yeah, he's going to go down on XDD. Force Staff gets him back up to the high ground on his own side of the jungle. And now Black going in and just selling out on this Roshan. That was a bizarre fight. That should have been CIS's fight for sure. Instead, things just kind of got crooked. They end up losing Black, and the buyback was forced, but they will get an Aegis out of it.
Yeah, the vacuum wall, and Spectre was just out on the edge of the fight and didn't get caught by any of the AoE and was able to chop through DK once his BKB was out, and that's pretty quick. He only has 4-second BKB. He just ripped through his armor. AO comes out. And
he got him.
Ooh, is that a Scepter ult?
Yeah, that's a Scepter ult. He's dead.
I don't know.
It's going to be close.
It's going to be really close. He's dropping items.
Yeah. Nope, got him. Bought the cloak and everything, but did get the hard done in the meantime, so.
Well, that sucks. He just lost 550 gold.
So,
that's unfortunate.
Well shot by AO.
So, it won't cost him anything, though. I mean, it'll cost Spectre some gold, but in terms of overall game objectives and the pace of the game, it doesn't really do that much.
Well, they do get the Aegis. But again, that fight, honestly, it felt like it was a little weird. And Black, he plays so aggressive that at times he doesn't know when to dial it back. Like you said, a big part of that was the fact that Spectre kept herself out of the fight till it was safe to come in. And Black blinked aggressively into a situation that he was simply not going to survive instead of just trying to get out and live to fight another day. But how big a deal is that, Aegis? You think they're actually going to do much with it or just keep farming with it?
Keep farming with it, I say, since Anti-Mage doesn't have buyback and he doesn't have his next item. I think if he has a heart, then yeah, they can probably force the issue. And Spectre just completed his heart, so this game went back and forth in between these two carries.
Oh, wow. Now Dreamy U being pursued. Black, ooh, good Manta. Manta's out of the magic missile. He's going to send his illusions on into lane to farm as he decides to pull back. He's got some help collapsing that away, but DT's already got their heels set, and they're ready to defend this tier 2 if there is any run at it. I'm actually on board with you. Like, Spectre's back up now. I think CIS should just use this Aegis to continue farming, let Black get further and further ahead, play defensive, and then try to make your run. Because, you know, you've reached this point now. You're at the very early stages of the late game, and you know, why rush it? You know, you have the advantage. You have the overall compositional advantage. No reason to try to do too much too quickly.
I think he should have gone for not the BKB build. I think it's a little bit conservative. Yes, BKB is nice, but he can just split out of silence, and after that, they only have one stun to worry about it. He should have max spell shield for the soul assumption. And yeah, blocks some of Spectre's damage, but at the same time, they need to be able to kill Spectre, and that's where like a Abyssal.
Oh, he's actually going to get Scythe and then swap out. Now though, here comes the Burrow Strike, and Black going to work with that BKB up. There's the vacuum into the wall. However, Demons doing a great job to turn this fight around. CIS has lost a lot of health. XDD is actually rushing very deep. Will secure one kill, but now Black's there, and they are going to be able to bring him down off of the stuns. The Dragon Tail with the follow-up stomp means XDD drops in a double kill for Black in the process. And they're not done. There's a gem on the ground, and July being pursued. Black actually walks through the wall. Has to be careful there. Will blink ahead, and yet another kill. That one secured by the Centaur. And that's exactly what I was saying there. Like, DT is the team that really has to try and hold you down. They fell back, they play defensive, and they end up baiting that fight out and end up taking a gigantic win. More importantly, though, the Spectre dies yet again. We're going to see this big gap begin to open up between he and Black.
Yeah, that's really scary for them. And Black didn't even lose Aegis in the process. Nope. He has another 3 minutes left on that, so they can definitely break base with this because Spectre doesn't have buyback. So that, I mean, that's super scary. Black was just in a position where he didn't have buyback. He just used it, and he doesn't actually have any big items. And Dreamy U just gets caught out, blown up, and yeah, I mean, this might be 2 sets of Rex, but there are T2s up in the side lane, so.
Black, silenced out, still just continuing to chop away. We'll see how much they want to commit. They may just take the tier 3 and back. Nope, Black decides it's Rax time. There's going to be an A ultimate that's going to come in, and that's going to catch 2. They're going to be able to bring down at least Super for sure, and Air's got to be careful. He's not that tanky. Black forced back, but he still has the Aegis. Aegis still has a minute or 2 on it. I'm surprised he didn't just let himself die there. He would have popped back up and had support, but looks like he feared the reprisal. Does manage to blink away, and now an Earn Charge, healing him back up. The Venge is the only one still down, so with Spectre coming back up, they're going to for sure retreat out of this, and the Aegis should end up expiring without a whole lot of fanfare. But
I thought they should have gotten the Rex. He just like straight tanked the Visit Birds instead of just straight up killing them. Anti-Mage does have 5,500 gold in the bank, and they don't have enough time to make another move though. With the Aegis, like 1 minute and 10 seconds is not enough to push your lane out, to get your next item, and then go back down mid. But Anti-Mage will be 6 slotted after this, but not with the ideal 6 slots. BKB 8 seconds. Vlad's is definitely sell fodder. And what is Spectre aiming for? He does have the casual cloak still, I think, or maybe he sold that. But he needs items, and he also needs buyback. One more fight like that, and DT will lose the game.
Aegis going to be gone shortly, and time seems to be running out for one of the favorites to dominate this field. CIS, again, coming into this qualifier for many, not more than a curiosity. Just the fact that a former Western star in Black had been playing with them made them a team that everyone wanted to watch, but no one expected a lot from. A win here puts them in a position to take what should be a win against C and B next, and they'll honestly just about guarantee. I mean, you have to look at the way the math could play out, I guess, but I'm pretty sure that guarantees a top 4. Like, they won't even be involved in the tiebreakers. Everything else will be behind them. While a loss here for DT makes it so they might end up dropping 2 in a row as their toughest challenge of the whole tournament's coming up later for them in LGD. So Very important. There's going to be a swap on the Black, and they get the Hex off as well. They're going to bring him down, but the Aegis was about to be reclaimed. He had 2 seconds left on it. Let's see if they can get people in position to help, and Black's going to BKB just to be super safe, and he's, looked like he wanted to pursue. The timing on that could not have been more perfect. Died with exactly 2 seconds left on the reclaim timer. Amazing.
But now you can see how quickly they can bring down Black if they initiate properly.
Correct.
So it's a swap into Hex into a stun so they can't stampede. So it's very important that the other supports are there to force staff him out of that sort of position, because that's pretty much the only thing that's going to save him aside from a heart. But I don't even think he can survive that damage with a heart. So it pretty much just has to be his teammates coming in with the blink stuns and the force staffs and the mech to save him from that amount of damage.
We can see he is finally beginning to spend some of that trust fund he had tucked away. He's picked up an Eagle Song. Butterfly would seem to be the order of the day. He's actually got it if he wants it. And probably just going to be safe with buyback. His timer just expiring not super long ago. Needs to be careful with that. And buyback's becoming very important on both sides. Spectre does have a bit of an advantage there, at least until he decides to pick up Boots of Travel. Just being able to hold on to your haunt and then buy back after a death and haunt in back into a fight is quite a big deal. But right now, just Spectre, Anti-Mage, and the Sand King with buyback.
Yeah, Butterfly, I don't know. I still think Heart would have been better because the way he dies is during Sheeps, but
Hang on, yep. Demons came back in. They're going to go ahead and stampede out and look for targets. DT went for it. They lost the Venge and didn't get a whole lot else accomplished. And Anti-Mage cleaning up the birds once again. Old Man Super hanging out at the retirement home. CIS going to pursue them out. Yeah, they're going to catch up with Super. Burrow Strike's going to be off the mark. Spectral Dagger will connect on Black. But they kind of went for this overly. Black's going to be hexed. Let's see if they want to follow up. They thought about it, but BKB's deployed on the side of CIS, so the Ancient Apparition all accomplishing nothing. And this is actually kind of weird. Looks like neither team wants to overcommit, but Black has to blink away after the Manta style. Now we're going to have Inflame pop his ultimate, anticipating the rundown from Air. June's right there.
Oh, the Butterflies saved him right there.
Yep.
My goodness.
June going to try to teleport away in their face. Inflame left behind. That was just a weird fight. Like, there's no other way to say it. It got so spread out, and neither team really committing everything they had to it, just kind of petering out their abilities and their BKBs.
Well, that with Sinking Sun definitely helped. That set up the fight for DT to counter initiate with the BKB on Night Stalker. And Night Stalker's getting fat. He's going to have his AC soon, so not as much damage as Dragon Knight, but actually fairly close. And, wow, they're really lucky that Anti-Mage didn't die there.
They're going to rush now mid. Anti-Mage still up. DK's down for 40 more seconds. Ancient Apparition will be up momentarily. He will have an ultimate. BKBs should be on cooldown at least a little bit longer. Nope, now they'll go ahead and use him. June going toe-to-toe with XDD. Sand King came in and got out. XDD is feeling huge on the back of that heart.
Did you see how little damage they did with that?
Yep.
It's ridiculous.
And there's going to be another swap. It's going to be June this time. Stampede was deployed. They're going to come back in. There's going to be the epicenter, though, and they're going to be able to melt them down this time. XDD cleaned up as Black goes on a killing spree, securing that kill with the Mana Void. And now Dreamy U, the next on the list, actually lost him in the trees. So they maintain their Tier 3. But more importantly, that Spectre is down. Buyback status tells us she can get back into the fight if she wants. Don't know, though, if they'll be able to force that as they are all the way on the other side of the map. Now we're beginning to see the bots come out. This is where things like buyback really come into play. Roche going to be back up in 10 seconds, though, and this should be a free one now for CIS.
They just missed it. That's so unfortunate for Black. He blinked in there, he blinks out, and Roche is up. Well, the initiation from DT is becoming a little bit too predictable. They have 2 fights in a row where Vengeful swaps, and they don't get a kill with or without the sheep. First, we have the BKB coming out from Black that prevented on bottom, and then the Stampede coming out from June that prevented the one in mid lane. So
another swap. Black once again able to blink away. Very quick on the reactions. Dreamy U almost dies again. Glyph is down, and Dreamy U just going to run in and die for free.
He got forced step back in somehow.
And here we go. Ancient Apparition all comes in. BKBs are up. XDD right up in front, but eating a lot of damage. Demon's left behind. He's going to be silenced and chased down from behind. So you end up going 1 for 1. The Venge exchange for the Sand King.
They need to do Roshan right now. Spectre doesn't have ultimate, and he just bought back. So if they kill him, they win the game right now. And if they don't, they just get a free Roshan.
And Black, going to take your word of advice. Move on into the pit. Expecting to see sell the Vlad soon, or you think he'll just rebuy BKB?
I think he should settle Vlad for the Aegis right now, and then after that go for a heart. I don't think he needs the Vlad. Not over a fresh BKB.
He's got enough for it now. Sand King's going to buy back and teleport in as quickly and as closely as he can. June's kind of running interference for the moment. It's going to be actually Dragon Knight that picks up the Aegis, so Black not the beneficiary there.
They've always been focusing Black, though, I think, team fights. Maybe like something like Centaur, but you don't actually care if Centaur dies in the fight and tanks the initiation.
Right. Basher instead. The pickup.
Yeah, it's either Abyssal or Heart. I think Heart is slightly better, but Abyssal's really good too.
Yep. That'll be the choice. As he did sell off the Vlad's empty slot. And CIS threatening again. Like you said, we're down to a point where buybacks are scarce. In fact, only 2 buybacks available at the moment, then they're both for CIS. They can bring down the Spectre, it's most likely GG. Dragon Knight's up front. He's going to end up being the bait. We're going to see a stun on the XTD. They're going to try to initiate off this. Demon's in trouble. There's a good vacuum wall. BKB's up on both sides, though. They're going to end up chasing down July. He's next to drop Air. And Super have to be careful as well. XTD down to about a quarter health. Black's just chopping away at the racks in the meantime, and XTD can't get close because of the Ancient Apparition ultimate. Can't take the chance of being bursted at all. Inflame is going to have his Aegis popped here, but he's not going to mind that, I don't think. They got the racks, and all it cost was an Aegis. XTD did fall back. And not going to be much else that CIS can do for the moment because Tier 2s are still standing in top and bottom. Yep, just going to TP home and go farm.
Yep, now they have another good 5 minutes to push with the Aegis too. They need to get the T2s obviously before they can push one of the sides, but still Spectre's in that really odd territory where he doesn't have buyback for another 3 minutes and the opposing team has the Aegis. That is a time to capitalize. I think CIS should definitely do this before Anti-Mage has too many items. That is a thing. Or too much gold, rather.
Yep. DT definitely down to a moment of desperation. Now, especially with the Dragon Knight picking up the Halberd, too. So they even have a way to account for that little bit of damage they do have. The Night Stalker, I don't know. I don't feel like he had as much impact as they needed, and the gold graph would seem to indicate that. When you have a Night Stalker and a Visage on team, heroes like that, you should not be losing that handily in the mid-game. And even though they've hung in and they've extended the game as well as they possibly could have, it's definitely the Black and CIS show at the moment.
Yeah, CIS just drafted around the Night Stalker because they revealed the Night Stalker in the first phase, and they also revealed the Spectre pick too early before CIS had their choice. So they picked greedy supports and played passively and farmed up their necessary items, Blinks and BKBs. And they got those, and DT didn't do enough damage early. Not that they really could have. I don't actually think that DT played very poorly at that. Maybe the one fight next to the Dire Ancients where CIS kind of anticipated their move, but that's just good play from CIS. So I think aside from that, DT could have improved their draft a little bit. Just don't show your cards until later. You obviously you can't pick all heroes 5th, but at the same time you don't really want to pick Night Stalker 2nd.
You think maybe they underestimated CIS a bit coming in?
I don't think so. Going into this game, when you're 7 games in and you haven't secured a first or second spot, you can never, ever take your opponent lightly. Even CIS, who has to go into the next game facing CMB, who's 0 and 6, 0 and 7 right now, it's still a really important game for them because that could mean the difference between losing 1 series and not going to TI at all, or losing 2, and you really need that wiggle room going into the playoffs.
Oh, absolutely, man. So much on the line.
Yeah, it's ridiculous, especially with the prize pool being what it is. Everyone knows that they want the money. They need a place. They need to make it past the qualifiers. First things first.
CIS ready to take the fight to DT. Fighting for their lives here in the qualifier, looking for their tickets to Seattle, and looking to be in good shape here. They lead this game handily in terms of gold and experience. Only 1 buyback available. That's Black. He has enough gold, I think.
Yeah, he has enough gold for buyback.
No, I wasn't even going to say for buyback. More like, could he buy back, buy Boots of Travel, and teleport back in?
Definitely not.
So he does need to tuck a little bit away. They're actually going to pull back and play ultra super duper safe. You think they're just going to wait out another Roshan?
I don't think they should have, since they had a pretty. Actually, they did pop Dragon Knight's Aegis the last fight. That was my mistake. So if they had the Aegis, I would say they just beat on the tower with DK until DT's forced to initiate. But as it stands right now, they don't really want to initiate without a big edge over the Spectre's buyback. If they have an Aegis, if they have BOT Anti-Mage like you said, then maybe they can. But Spectre's gonna have another couple of lives too, but he won't be able to buy Butterfly for another 5 or 6 minutes, or else he won't have buyback. Oh. And I think that Anti-Mage might actually need an MKB. I guess he can't get it anymore, though.
Yeah.
There's
The one that
nothing
go
that he can
bootless.
sell.
I have seen Black go bootless anti-mage in the late game. Literally. I've seen him sell on, like, not have any boots at all.
It's okay. Anti-Mage is already pretty fast hero.
Yep.
They don't have any drums to augment his movement speed, but they have Stampede.
Right.
And they have a lot of chain stun, so he actually doesn't need to move around that much. So I wouldn't be too opposed to it this game.
For the moment, looks like they're just trying to strangle them out. They're kind of now beginning to rotate top as a whole. Ancient Apparition finally finishes that 4th staff. But CIS looking to try to close this out, one would think. The Tier 2 no longer standing there, so just a matter of where they want to push. It looks like top's their choice. What's going to be key here leading up to this fight?
Big vacuum wall, big sheep. And do they have Abyssal on Night Stalker? No, they do not. They have an AC. I don't really know why he got an AC. Like, most of the damage from Spectre, and Spectre doesn't actually care about armor values. I think, like, the Abyssal, so they can lock people down and prevent the opponent's damage, would actually be a lot more useful. So, looks like CIS not opting for that. They do have enough map control to secure next Roshan easily if they want to, and we won't see the timer for another 2 minutes. But at that point, Spectre might have Butterfly.
Yep.
He will have Butterfly.
Yep. It's given its take. The Spectre will have Butterfly. I would imagine Black's going to get bots. That's the only thing that makes sense, is if he has the money and he's continuing to farm and he has enough for buyback and for an item upgrade. Bots are the only real thing he can put in his inventory without sacrificing much. And he needs it. You know, whenever you have a Spectre that can buy back and haunt into the fight immediately, you have to have that same possibility, otherwise it's just an innate disadvantage.
So net worth in between AM and Spectre is 33,000 to 23,000, but as it stands right now, it's actually not that much because Anti-Mage has a lot of dead gold. Like, he has 61,800 in his inventory, but buyback and BOTs, that doesn't actually contribute to his fighting capabilities in a fight,
Right.
whereas Spectre can just buy back and haunt into a fight. He does need a little bit more for buyback. He is buyback at 1,900, so he needs like a little over 1,000 gold about to be safe for the next fight. But still, Anti-Mage is not getting any stronger, whereas Spectre with his Butterfly and no MKB out on Anti-Mage, no MKB out on anyone on CIS, Spectre could still end up winning this fight.
Well, we've seen it time and time again, and statistics back it up, that anti-mage in games that go from 40 to 50 minutes, his win rate is actually quite high. After that, it begins to plummet, and it continues to plummet the later the game goes. He tends to get 6 slotted so quickly, like you said, he caps out his combat potential. While heroes like Spectre continue to add to it. They just have a little bit more flexibility, a little bit more versatility, especially with things like Haunt, Desolate, and Dispersion, and what that can do to your team.
And he sells one more slot.
Exactly. So, Black, what did Black build? I didn't even see what he bought there. Oh, new BKB. That makes sense. Thought he was going to go bots, instead opting for the Magic community. DT, though, they're ready to take the fight to CIS. This is a big gamble. And we'll see if it's going to work out for them. They have a target. Oh, Black so close. Roche still 3 minutes from spawning. They're going to be able to do it. Black swapped out and then hexed out. Do they have the burst? And Black trying to run. Got the BKB off. Now they're going to try to turn it around. AA Ultimate on the way. Going to catch a couple. In the meantime, Black is still up. XDD going to be caught out, and the epicenter's enough to put him down for the count. He doesn't have buyback now, but he will in about 15 to 20 seconds. CIS now charging them down. DT could not have asked for a better sequence of events. They just could not capitalize. Spectre is literally 20 gold away, not even that, 15 gold away from buyback if they want to contest this. The Darkseer, not so. No, the Darkseer actually has it too, and Venge does not. So she's down for the count, but they can get 4 back up depending on if CIS is going to try to push the issue, and they certainly are. They're going to try to force a buyback out of Spec if they can.
That's pretty sad that CIS can't, or DT can't even kill an anti-mage who's sheeped up, has 2,000 HP, and they have all 5 heroes on it.
Yep.
So their damage output is just pathetically weak. Aside from Spectre. But even Spectre couldn't kill him.
Yep, and now the Veil used. On top of the AA Ultimate, it's going to be enough to force them back. Shiva is going to be deployed as they blink away. Buyback on the Darkseer. Venge was back up of her own accord, and Spectre had to buy out.
That's a little unfortunate. I just get a lot of unfortunate for CIS that the Roshan respawn was almost maximum. If it were really short, they could take advantage of this window again, where Spectre doesn't have buyback and they'll have the Aegis, but looks like it's only going to be a 4-minute window about where they can take another Rax. But CIS still in pretty good control of this game. Forcing out Spectre's buyback this late post 60 minutes is just huge.
Oh, yeah. I think they're in great shape.
That was like about the perfect initiate for them too.
No, it
Swap
was.
into a sheep, counter by Stampede, and then immediate Venge Stun. So that's how it's been a couple of times, and it's kind of hit or miss as to whether or not they kill them in time.
Well, I think it's all the things that concerned us through the early, even through the draft, just looking at the way they were going to shape up. Again, the lack of lockdown, the lack of true late game damage outside of the Spectre. Night Stalker, I mean, he's got some stuff, but not a lot. I mean,
he needs Abyssal.
Yeah, he doesn't. They're lacking. They feel very one-dimensional, I'll put it that way. Basically, it's like, oh, we're going to wreck off of a good vacuum wall and Spectre haunting in. And that's nice, but it's not nearly as nice as what CIS has, which is a ton of AoE. They have the Ice Blast from the Ancient Apparition, which is a gigantic X factor for which they have to account every single time they engage. Centaur with nice AoE stun, great single target stun from Dragon Knight, good AoE from the Sand King. It's just too much. CIS has a very well-rounded and well-drafted lineup, and they're punishing DT now that all of their heroes are beginning to fall off.
Yeah, they just knew they had to take it late, get mass BKBs, get Ghost Scepters on the support, and they can even counter mass sheeps with Force Staff, so they pretty much have a solution for everything that DT has.
Still waiting on the Roshan to respawn. DT likely down to their last gasp of air. Roche is back up, and let's see if they can pull out a miracle. CIS moves into the pit. They've got June standing sentry and doing a little bit of the centaur dance. Up and down, up and down. And they're going to take this very quickly. Here come the birds, but it's not going to matter. Now it might. They're going to come in. They're going to catch June. They're going to swap him. That's not the target they usually want, though. They usually want to save that for the anti-mage. Here's a counter initiation as the BKBs go off. Black going to work as best he can. Here comes In Flame, doing what he can to control this fight. Followed up on the July. The entire fight is spread out ridiculously. AA Ultimate secures the kill there, but Black chopping one on XDD. Abyssal's there, and finally brought down. In Flame likely to drop and all this. Oh,
that is GG.
That was sick as hell, actually.
There's almost no way they can come back from this.
No.
But
Spectre's gone. She's down for the count.
It might have looked like a bad fight for DT, but it's two things. You either fight at Roshan where they don't have Aegis and Cheese, or you defend high ground with Aegis and Cheese, and I don't think the positional advantage is worth fighting against the Aegis and Cheese. So I think they made the right call there. They executed as best as they could with the swap and sheep again. But again, he's got 4 staffed out, and Centaur, if he's not going down, they're not winning the fight off of the back of that.
Yep, no, I agree. Well, I mean, again, it's like there's only so many ways you can break it down. As both teams kind of started to play very cautiously, and a lot of it just came down to CIS had the better late game draft. Like sometimes your composition just scales better, and Black, even though they did a decent job of pressuring him early, the laning stage and the mid game could have gone either way. But CIS just played to their strengths, and they get a big upset win here, and this is a huge win for them, because now looking ahead they have one more game and it should be a bunny. It's it's a game they should win, and they have a chance to finish undoubtedly top 3 even on top of the tiebreakers.
Yeah, they could finish top 2 depending on the last. If DT Club lose to LGD, I believe they're top 2.
Yeah.
So let's take a quick look at our standings, see where things leave us. I believe Roland's ready to go with that. We can talk a bit more about the match afterwards, but I'm more interested in the implications, what this means for the standings, who's actually making it through. CIS at this point more or less guaranteed to be in the tiebreakers. There's a chance they get top 2.
With that win, I don't think there's any doubt. Like, I don't even think they're going to be in the tiebreakers. Like, if they lose their next match, which to be honest would be like probably one of the most surprising losses of the entire tournament.
Yes.
Even then, I still think
CB has a win now.
Do they? Who they beat?
Yeah, they beat
Arenda.
It's it's like a team who's knocked out being another team who's knocked out. So
right, exactly.
Not the end of the world. Looks like no standings for the time being. Hopefully we can get them fixed up. Fixed in just a second. But yeah, looking here we can see a bit of what's going on. So DT Club, LGD C-Deck, the other big name. There's 4 teams who are 5-3.
Wow.
And a Hyper Glory team might actually not qualify.
Oh my god. Who's Hyper Glory team's last match against?
HGT, they have to play.
That last round must have been insane.
Speed Gaming. Speed Gaming's, look, it's on a freebie. Speed Gaming's a tough team. Like I've seen them play and they've been really impressive, even though they're not making it into the playoffs. And then
Tong Fu made it through.
Yeah, Tongfu are playing well. They've been really good when I've seen
it. It was like a 12-minute GG versus LGD
we've
that I watched yesterday.
We've got Tongfu and C-Deck next. That's our next match.
Wow.
Okay. That's a winner of that goes through. Loser maybe in tiebreaks, maybe knocked out.
Yep.
So the way... Let's see. Oh, there we go. We've got standings now up on the
okay,
stream
so like
viewers.
this next match coming up, well, it's going to be the last match of the day. DT playing against LGD.
Last match of the day is LGD versus DT. Yeah.
Right. That's huge for DT.
Yes.
Huge, because what's likely to happen, just going purely by chalk, is CIS is going to beat CNB. Like one would assume so. If they do that, that means they move up to 6-3.
Yep.
Then you've got these two LGD, and Tongfu. One of those is going to be 6-3 at the end. One of those is going to be 5-4 at the end.
Yep.
So that's going to give you your 3 teams basically. So long as, and then basically that's where DT Club's going to fall in. If they get a win and upset LGD, LGD still finishes first, but they move up into the 6-3 club, and that could honestly force tiebreakers almost to be a non-issue.
Well, you need a tiebreaker. If there's 2 teams tied for second place, you need a tiebreaker to decide who starts in the winner bracket, who starts in the lower bracket.
You don't look and see like who won the head-to-head?
No head-to-head there.
That's goofy.
No.
I don't understand that.
It's the Valve way. It's the
Fair
same
enough.
way Valve do it with the prelims at TI as well. So.
Fair enough.
They're not going to look at the head-to-head there. So we may not have actual... There's also a chance we have no tiebreakers. Like if CIS goes 6-3, they finish second. DT Club lose to LGD. And then we have another team who's also 5-3, which is the winner of LGD and Tongfu. Then no tiebreakers at all.
Yep.
HET is... I think HET are out practically.
Yeah, they just about are. Like the best they can do is 5-4 now, right?
HET have to hope CIS lose. I think that's the only way
that makes
HET get
sense.
through. And that's realistically unlikely to happen. So...
Well, guys, that's all the scenarios we got. I think we got another game we have to get set up for, but
yeah.
Final thoughts on that one there, Ben?
I still think they should have not picked the Night Stalker, like something like a Tinker.
Way too early.
It would have been a lot better. They have more global presence. They can TP on the birds. It's better for late game. They just needed a secondary damage source.
Yeah, they lack damage in the late game. And I think the other thing is a really underrated item on Spectre, especially like in that game there in the late game, is BKB. Spectre needed a BKB, I felt. Like, it was constantly getting... Like, the Mana Void is what killed Spectre from, like, half HP in the last fight. And just, in general, getting constantly locked down by Centaur and all these other stuns and disables. I think Spectre really needed
I think
BKB.
the Fuse didn't do, like... It maybe got them, like, 1 kill. The Fuse...
What? Well, the other big thing is, why do you not go Radiant's first item? I was talking to Fog the entire time. He's just like, dude, I have no idea.
Just go Radiant.
You go Radiant.
You go Radiant. It's simple.
I've got some Fog notes here. I can play
Fog notes.
Yeah, we've got the Mort notes going. But yeah, the main thing he kept saying was like, you got to go Radiant on Spectre that game. So.
Well, they didn't, and they end up losing because of it. So CIS in the mix. And, the things are getting interesting. You can find all the standings, variety of places, but I'll let you do it. You do the outro. You're the host.
All right. Well, guys, you guys are watching the TI4 Qualifiers. It's the China Qualifiers presented by Monster Energy. I'm Gods. He's Millennium AC. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we'll be live with our next match, Tongfu versus LGD C-Deck. Winner goes through the playoff. Loser, they're in a bit of a predicament. So, guys, we'll be right back. Stay tuned.